Good day everyone, this is Sir Vince. And for this video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through how to complete the proposal defense slides template. We begin by making a copy of this slides presentation and naming it using this particular format. So proposal defense section and then group number. Take note that this is a general guide only and modifications are still up to you. But make sure that you present each section expected to be discussed in the proposal. In the guides that you will be seeing later on, many of the texts are written in red font. So they serve as placeholders for information that you will be lifting from your manuscript. Okay, so that manuscript text could serve as your presentation text as well. Generally, the advice is use a non-red font or black more specifically, okay, for the final presentation text. Okay, so just like removing the red text fonts, or rather red font texts, you also have to remove this instructions slide. Improve the visuals of your presentation and refrain from retaining the visual template. Okay, so as I've mentioned earlier, the visual template is just a placeholder. So this placeholder should be replaced by your own choices for designs, color, font scheme. Okay. However, please avoid visually cluttering the presentation. Instead, you might want to incorporate your documented photos. So this is going to be your meetings, your consultations with your research teachers, some initial surveys that you probably have made, or some photos of the locale which you will be researching on. If certain parts are not applicable, please take note that you do not need to include them in the presentation. So for example, your study is more of a qualitative study which will not include experiments or survey, for example. So do not force an experiment or a survey section. Only incorporate what has been written in your manuscript already. Some bullet points set placeholders for a number of items, like for example, 3 research questions. However, only employ what is applicable. That is, if you have only 2 research questions, then focus on only 2 research questions. Lastly, double check that each part is complete and ready for your presentation. You do not want your panelists to be confused regarding the information you will be sharing. Okay, now let's go to each section. So here, you write please your research title. Okay, you may retain the proposal defense here as to inform everybody that you are having the proposal defense. So you may replace as well the image placeholder here with something that you prefer. Okay, just ensure that the photos that you have would be original, or rather you own the rights to these pictures, so refrain from simply grabbing photos from the internet. Okay, for the author page, please follow this sequencing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just adjust if you will be having more authors. Okay, so advisedly, you are to provide a research team name. Okay, so that will serve as your branding, hopefully anchored on your topic. Okay, and then for the order of the authors, for the proposal defense, it's okay that you follow the alphabetical order. Okay, so the alphabetical order would mean that you are not following the order of authors according to contribution. While I did mention earlier, the author contribution list or author contribution order could actually be presented now. It can be also presented in the final defense. So the thing is, as you begin, you might not be so sure about the author order. So you may modify them or probably just stick to alphabetical order first, okay, at least for the proposal defense. Take note that in the final defense, the author order will focus on the contributions, okay? So please take note of that one. By the way, images, make sure that the images are observing some formality. So refrain from simply grabbing photos from your social media, okay? Preferably, you can use pictures, okay, that would have everybody wearing their uniforms, okay? So refrain from social media pictures, okay? Next, we begin your presentation, your formal presentation, with a narrative hook. That is to say, you share a question, interesting fact, and or a picture that can help grab the attention of the audience and relate this to the importance of your topic, okay? So while presenting this, you will basically just have like 30 seconds to 1 minute. So make sure that that particular presentation time has created an impact to really grab the interest of your panelists. Now we proceed with the sections lifted from your manuscript. So we have the background of the study, okay? So notice that generally you are not to write full-length paragraphs here, nor should you be lifting a full page, okay, and pasting that here in your slides presentation. Instead, what you do is condense the information into bullet points. In this particular section, focus on the general importance, the targeted SDG, which serves as your macro scale importance, and then your identified URC agenda for your micro scale importance. So notice that this would observe the inverted funnel for narrowing down your topic, okay? So again, bullet points. This will also be observed in the other sections like statement of the problem, scope and delimitations, significance of the study, even in the definition of terms, all right? So just have bullet points and elaborate them during your presentation. So each section that was mentioned should be discussed in like 1 minute maximum. Now, purpose statement, okay, should also be included, okay? So you may just write infinitive phrases, probably like to explore the challenges of students in online learning, okay? Then to examine the effects of a certain variable to this particular topic, okay? So something to that effect. Research questions, I mentioned it earlier. If there are only, say, 2 research questions from your study, from your manuscript, then just write 2 research questions. Do not force another research question. That will be confusing to your panelists. Okay, so that goes to your purpose statement as well. Okay, now we proceed with the literature review. Okay, and we somehow review the importance of the study. Okay, so you can practically go back to the slide on the background of the study. All right, as the literature review is more of an author-led section, okay, that is to say, you guys determine the sections or themes or variables to be discussed in your literature review. There is no specific section to be included here. Okay, so again, that will depend on your manuscript. Okay, so what is written in your manuscript? All right, so ideally, however, each section, theme, variable should be discussed in a slide. Okay, so 1 slide per theme, variable section. Okay, again, observe bullet points only. Okay, so perhaps identify the main claim for that particular theme or variable, and then enclose in parentheses studies or key studies that were explored. duplicate the slide depending on the themes that you have, again, because you have an author initiated or an author led section. Okay, so here's an example. So here is a heading that you guys will provide. Okay, so provide this heading, so provide a claim, and perhaps write in bullet points some more information to be expanded during the presentation. Notice here that we've added the key studies that were consulted for the claims that you have here. So advisedly, at least have 3 to 5 references that you can cite. Okay, so gap statements, I believe that in a previous video there is an exploration of gaps that you can explore in your study. So mention here if it's a population gap, or say a practical gap, practical knowledge gap, or say a methodological gap. So normally those are the gaps that can be explored in novice researchers studies. Okay, so again, if you have only underscored like 1 or 2 gaps, it's okay. So please take note that these are just placeholders. Okay, do not force any other information that is not lifted from your manuscript. Then the conceptual framework, normally we just have here the visuals or the illustration, and it would be explained by the presenter. Okay, so it's important that you have the CF or the conceptual framework understandable, because that will set the tone and direction for the study's conduct, okay, or the understanding of how your study will proceed. Then, as we go now to the methodology portion, let's just have one slide where you will have a recap sort of the title of your study, purpose of your study, and research questions. Okay, so again, you may have like key phrases for these portions, or if the information can be included here, all of them, it's okay. So write them in full, but if not, just use key phrases. Now, there will be some sections that might not be applicable for all studies, especially considering the nature of the study. Let's say, for example, a population and sampling would probably be expected for studies that require surveys and or interviews. But if you have experiments, unless otherwise you have no portion for, or you're not expecting some customer feedback, okay, so you may not include population and sampling. Okay, so again, depending on the nature of your particular study, okay, so the methodology sections may be tailor fit. Okay, so here's the population and sampling section. Data collection, I believe this is, however, going to be included in all kinds of studies. Okay, so data analysis, okay, so it's also expected. Okay, I'll skip this first. Some parts that you might not be including would be survey questions, interview questions, process flow for experiments. Okay, so these 3 in particular may or may not be included. Okay, so check with your research advisor. Now, let's go to this portion where you show alignment, or at least you present a matrix that will help your panelists comment on the alignment of your study. So we include here the research questions, identification of data to be collected, the data collection procedures, and then the data analysis method. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, so let's take note of this topic first. So you have here evaluation of the SRA reading program, mixed method analysis of junior high school students' academic progress and perceptions. So for example, we have this first set of research questions. Okay, so the data to be collected would be SRA reading levels and English grades. Okay, so the data collection method, probably a survey, and then we get to have data analysis in the form of descriptive analyses first. Okay, so we're going to ask the panelists to check if there is some alignment. Okay, so say for example, the panelists may want to clarify, so is this only through a survey, or do you mean you will collect data from, say, certain offices like the registrar's office? Okay, and they may also comment on the title that you have. Okay, so perhaps they might want to include the term English grades, okay, because the grades that you will be getting will be only from the English classes. Okay, so this section would be very important for panelists in order for them to help you align your study. Okay, so your research question and your data collection and analysis should all be aligned. All right, so as mentioned earlier, if applicable, write here the survey questions. Just add more slides if needed. Interview questions, again, add more slides if applicable. And then for experiments, do take note. Share a flowchart or a summary of steps for the experiment. And add more slides if applicable. Identify the tests you will use. And you can also ask your panelists for suggestions. Okay, so these things you need to be able to clarify them during the proposal defense. All right, so for the ethical considerations, all of you will be ensuring that you have a statement on ethical considerations, especially because ethics will also be checked by the panelists, or rather your ethical safeguards. Okay, so list here what you will do to address ethical concerns. Let's say for example, say if it's an interview, you will be providing an informed consent form. You will ensure data privacy. Okay, if it's an experiment, say lab safety procedures will be observed. Okay, so you need to specify this so that your panelists will be able to give you a green light for the ethical clearance. Okay, also paste here your budget proposal. The matrix will be helpful so that you guys can project your finances for the study. Advisedly, it should not go beyond like 10K. Okay, so for experiments, okay, so sometimes the study might be too financially demanding, so do check with the panelists if you need to like scale down certain tests or research questions even. Okay, the Gantt chart. So please paste here your Gantt chart rather, as it will serve as a basis for your grade in RDL. So within the particular semester, you have to be able to finish your study. Okay, so this means that you have 10 weeks maximum. All right, so this might stretch from July until late September. Okay, so that's actually like 12 weeks. So you have to be able to maximize the 12 weeks. Okay, but your Gantt chart will only be maximizing 10 weeks. Okay, so depending if you have reached the timeline that you have set, you will also be given a certain grade for that one. Now, down to the last few slides, we take note of we write the references here. Okay, so advisedly only use the references or list here the references that you have included in this particular presentation. Okay, so make sure to follow APA 7 guidelines, and then observe 80%. Okay, so 80% peer-reviewed sources. Okay, specifically journal articles. Okay, you may also have like conference proceedings. Okay, but 20% should be the limit for, say, web pages, websites, news reports. Okay, so quality written outputs should come from quality readings. Okay, so I am hoping that you guys have quality outputs, or rather quality readings for your manuscript and your research. Okay, so right here once more your slides, or you may simply copy and paste the author slides. Okay, so this one you just replace with your team name. Okay, again, retaining the same order. Okay, but heads up, you might be changing the order, okay, for one that follows author contributions in the final defense. Okay, but for now, alphabetical order may be okay. And then your research title will be presented here. That will be signaling that you have ended your proposal defense. Okay, and that's it for the walkthrough for this proposals defense slides template. Okay, all the best in your proposal defense.